Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at another band I have not heard of before, a band called Shadow of Intent. Now obviously, as we all know, if I've not heard of a band before, I like to research and find out what I can about the band, and there is a fair amount of information out there, so this is what I've found. Shadow of Intent is an American deathcore band from Connecticut, formed in 2013 as a Halo-themed studio project by Ben Dewar and Chris Wiseman. The band's name is a reference to a Covenant ship from the Halo game series. The band are not signed to a label and have released all of their albums independently. They've released 4 studio albums to date, along with 2 instrumental versions of previous releases and 1 deluxe album. Their 4th studio album, titled Elegy, was released independently on January 14th, 2022. Now, we're going to be looking today at a track called From Ruin We Rise. And I'm not sure whether this is a recent track. I don't know if this comes off the newest album or not, but I have lyrics here. Hopefully they will be correct, because, you know, sometimes when you find lyrics on the internet, they're not entirely accurate. But we shall see. So we'll jump into this, see what it's like. They say it's an American deathcore band. We've covered a fair amount of deathcore on this channel, but, you know, there's quite a wide spectrum of what deathcore actually is. Very, very different approaches to deathcore. So, we'll see what we've got. So we've got From Ruin We Rise by Shadow of Intent. Let's have a look. Well, there we go. From Ruin, We Rise by Shadow of Intent. And talking about intent, that was intense. I mean, that was brutal, that was fast, that was hard, that was heavy. It was really very, very good. That was a great piece of music. Very heavy. Very, very heavy. Now, I will say the vocalist was using effects on his vocals, clearly. Whether it was just something as simple as a doubling pedal, so like he was sort of accompanying himself, because when he was singing, there was his growled vocal, but there was also the higher pitched scream vocal that he did later in the track as well. So he's recorded it once with the deep vocals, and then done it again with the higher pitched vocals, or he's using a pedal to modulate the sound to give him a sort of coupling effect to accompany him through the track. But there was definitely effects on his vocals, but that should not take away from the fact that the vocals were performed brilliantly. I mean, his deep growls were very solid. You know, they had a really nice deep sound to them. They sounded great. Obviously, at some points throughout the song, the two people on either side of him, the guitarist and the bassist, they also came in with some harmonies, but they were obviously very different vocal styles from what he was doing. So when I said he was obviously doing like doubling on his vocal style, it was clearly not him and one of the other guys doing it. It was definitely just him by himself using a doubling effect. Now, the song itself appears to be about war and, you know, surviving war. I mean, the track is called From Ruin We Rise, you know, so from out of the ashes of conflict we will continue, sort of thing. And the actual lyrics to this are very good, very interesting, very well written, and, you know, quite impressive actually, and there is a lot of them. But then he had to put a lot in to the song. So it goes: newcomers dance and sing, relieved by the passing of spring. They feel the grace of the sun, their misfortune has not yet begun. When the men used to come for their drinks, where the children would play endlessly, they have taken our everything, they know not what tomorrow shall bring, on the opposite side of the field. A vengeance that shall never yield. Fathers weep for their sons, their suffering cannot be undone. So within the first few lines, they're talking about, you know, newcomers dance and sing, you know, relieved by the passing of spring, you know, so people are living sort of blissfully and happily and not knowing, you know, saying their misfortune has not yet begun. So people are living happily, minding their own business, and then all of a sudden, boom, you know, some nut job's going to come in and start a war. You know, it says where the men used to come for their drinks, where the children would play endlessly, you know. So these places that used to be bustling with happiness and, you know, companionship, where friends would go to meet and hang out. And it says they have taken our everything, and we don't know what tomorrow shall bring. Fathers weep for their sons, and their suffering cannot be undone. So, you know, it starts off as a nice sort of happy sort of moment, you know, painting a lovely picture of happiness, and then boom comes the sudden threat of war. You know, people are dying, people are losing their children, people are losing their fathers and mothers, and, you know, the sudden toll of what war is. Why cry? From the squalor of ruin we rise. They reap what they've sown. From squalor and ruin we rise. There's too many W's and R's in this. Arise, arise. Past the horizon lay paradise, but here the rivers run red. So, you know, on the horizon, you know, past the horizon, this will eventually end, and, you know, we'll be happy again. We'll be able to go back to our normal life once this is over. But right here, right now, the rivers run red with blood. Dregs of the world seen through their eyes, less than the dung below the flies. Fields of the dead bake in the light. I actually like those lines. It sounds very weird to say I like those lines, but you know, dregs of the world seen through their eyes are less than the dung below the flies. So these, these invading forces are looking at the people of the country, and to them, they are less than the shit that the flies are feasting upon. And the fields of dead bake in the light. I like the way that line is worded. Fields of dead bake in the light. So, obviously the heat of the daylight sun is sort of roasting these dead piles of bodies that are along the way. Children, women and men, their bodies lie piled in the streets, stacked 6 feet high. Tell me why. Oh, why? Again, tell me why. Why are we doing this? Why does there have to be such conflict? Why do we have to actively seek out war? What is the point in it? It'd be so much better if everybody sort of just got along and helped each other, rather than constantly, looking at someone's country and going, you've got something I want, so I'm going to come in there and I'm going to take it by force. And I don't care how it affects you people, because it's what I want. I don't care how many of my people I get killed either, because it doesn't affect me. Why? Why do it? What's the point? Limbs contorted, anatomical morbid distortions, at a biblical limit the purging. In our hearts is a rage ever burning. Come the next morning, we attack with 1,000 scornings. Look upon us like death is emerging, beginning the righteous charge disparaging. So, again, you're looking at all this scattered dead all about you, and you're like, you just build with rage. It says, come the next morning, we attack with 1,000 scornings. Look upon us like death is emerging. So it's like you've just waltzed into our country, our town, our city, wherever, and you've killed all of these people, just as a sort of surprise attack. Come tomorrow morning, we're going to retaliate, and you shall look upon us as death, because we are going to destroy you. You're attacking our land. You're an intruder on our property, essentially. So we're going to come to you, and we are just going to mow you down. Now it's our time for the scourging. With hatred and relentless swarming, skies wail as rockets are hurling, falling down to earth, screaming and bursting. Miles, miles and miles of corpses, they bear witness to vindictive forces. As far as the eyes can see, if you saw it, you wouldn't believe it. When will these fucking wars end? Then it goes back into that why cry. From squalor and ruin we rise. God, I hate trying to say that line. They reap what they've sown. From squalor and ruin we rise. Arise, arise. Past the horizon lay paradise, but here the rivers run red. So, it's quite a powerful song, and it does paint quite a powerful picture. They've worded it incredibly well, and it sounds great. The performance itself was great. Like I said, not to take anything away from the singer, he is using an effect on his voice, but he's not the only person in history to ever do that. He's definitely using one. But his performance is still exceptional. To give that vocal performance, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of training to be able to do death metal vocals, to do it properly without blowing your voice out. It takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of effort. So, you got to give it to the man. And the performance was great. And using the doubling pedal, it's not a bad thing. I mean, when I actually recorded some tracks when I was in Thy Demise, I did that as well. On a couple of tracks. Unfortunately, they'll never get released because, I got removed from the band. But, I still actually have the copies of the tracks, but they'll never get released. But yeah, I mean, the overall performances were good. The drums were insane. The guitars were brilliantly performed. It sounded great. And as I said at the beginning, there's so many different angles that people think of deathcore. But this is the style that I like. It's more death than deathcore, if that makes sense. But it is still a brilliant piece of music. I absolutely love it. Fantastic. I'm going to have to investigate this band some more. I mean, they started off as a Halo-themed studio project. Now, I might be in the minority here, but I do not like Halo. I think it is a terrible, terrible game. So, I'm a bit about that bit, but we shall look past that, and I want to investigate this band even further, because I really did enjoy that. So yeah, great piece of music by an amazing band, brilliantly performed. What else can I say? Can't really think of anything else to say, so I will leave it at that. So thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Now it's our time.